Welcome to another CMC podcast. Today we're continuing our series where we're interviewing all of the GRIMP North America 2022 teams. And joining us today, we have the 49th Parallel team from Canada. So Pete, you want to say hi and introduce your team?
Hi everybody, 49th Parallel Rescue Team, as Doug just told you. Our team again was made up of members from across Canada, Tim being the furthest away in Brampton. We had Mike come in from Canmore. Then the rest of us were from the Metro Vancouver and Vancouver Island area on the West Coast.
Excellent. Hey, thanks everyone for joining us. So Pete, can you tell us a little bit about your team?
For sure. We're made up of mostly firefighters. We have some industrial firefighting experience. We did have a retired search and rescue technician who was going to be our evaluator, but COVID nipped him 2 days before we were supposed to leave, and that's where Mike got the opportunity to join in. There he is.
That's awesome, man. It seemed like the never-ending substitution list for the last 2 years, right?
Yeah, there was a lot of challenges that we had from the time we put the team together until we actually made it to LA. We had to shuffle positions around 2 or 3 times just to accommodate family issues and travel needs, and then COVID striking at the last minute. So it was an interesting process getting everybody there and hoping that there was enough of us standing when the competition started.
So what got you guys interested in participating in GRIMP North America?
That's a funny question for me. I was chatting with one of the other team members who couldn't make it, Jeff, about 3.5 years ago, almost 4 years ago now, I guess, when the first GRIMP North America was starting. The email went out through Ronin to see if anybody was interested. And I looked at the email, thought about it, and then moved on. Busy, family, summertime, all of that stuff. And Jeff actually reached out to me and said, have you thought about it? Have you looked into it? And I told him that I had, but that was as far as I was going with it. And then I asked him, I said, why? Are you thinking of doing GRIMP? And he said, yeah, I really am. And he got me thinking a bit more and he pushed a little bit. So I chatted with Mark to see what kind of skills, requirements, travel, all those things would be expected. And I decided to put my name forward, and Jeff put his name in. And then Mark picked the team based on people's, availability, experience. And they'd already had competition teams competing, and they wanted to spread it out and get more people involved. So when he announced the team, here's the funny part for me. I just wanted to join and be a part of GRIMP and learn. But Mark assigned me as the team captain, and that was not negotiable. And then everybody else we could figure out as we went. So my experience got off to a quick and fast pace, trying to figure it all out. So it was kind of funny in a way, because I went from just not even being interested to being interested and then being handed a team.
And if I recall too, you guys at Ronin, you guys kind of use the competitions as a vetting tool, and also to kind of basically for your staff development too, correct?
Yeah, that is correct. They like to see people put their name forward, put their foot forward, and do these competitions because of how much skills and knowledge that you get out of it and bring back to the company. And then when we have, more difficult jobs, you're a little better prepared and you can offer a bit more to our customer base. So, and they use it as a motivational thing to move up within the ranks and achieve a higher rank within the company as well.
Oh, that's great then. So this team, as it was set up, have you guys participated in any other competitions?
Not as the 49th Parallel team. We've only done GRIMP North America twice. And as it was, we were fortunate to get a second chance at it. We didn't get in on the competition first go round when the first 12 teams were announced, but we were contacted and asked if we would be an alternate team. And we decided that we would do that. And then within a few weeks, an opportunity came up. So we did end up getting our chance, obviously now. But back then it was a bit of an anxious few weeks waiting.
Yeah, I bet. Has anyone on your team participated in like GRIMP in Belgium or any of the other GRIMPs at all? Or were you all first-time team members?
When we were there in 2019, we were all first-timers. Coming back in 2022, I know Jeff and Tim competed together in Belgium, and Jason also has competed multiple times. And Jason was not a last minute, but a later addition to our team. Tim's done a few. I'm going to let him speak.
Yeah, I went down to Taiwan and did the Chiao. It's like a bridge competition. That competition was beautiful, very well done. And I went and spectated Namur before I came out to GRIMP NA. And yeah, I got that's when I got my real awakening. I went in with a harness, and they told me to bring a DCD, so I brought a bar rack, and I got laughed out of Belgium there. And then from then on, I got the bug, and been trying to throw my name in the hat for every competition we can. And went and did GRIMP Namur just before GRIMP NA there, and it was really good. And hopefully we'll be able to do another one soon.
Oh, that's great. And I'm kind of talking offline here beforehand when we're obviously these get pre-recorded, and you guys have got a team that just finished a competition in Spain here this week, right? Yep. Or last week?
Yeah, just a couple days ago.
So they came 11th there, so they're quite happy with that. They said the heat was quite a bit for them though.
Yeah, I had heard it was pretty hot over there. That's the consistent comment from all the teams.
Yeah, there was temperatures between 35 and the low 40 degrees Celsius barrier. And I think 3 of the Ronin team at different times went down with heat injuries. And that was one difference about the Great Day competition, is that you could sub in or out teammates. You didn't have to have the same patient and same team lead and whatnot. You could move people around. So it was actually to their benefit for that competition, which is somewhat different from GRIMP North America, where everybody, for patient and controller or evaluator, once you were identified, that was it. You were in. Mm-hmm. And if you had to change out your patient, you were not going to score.
I could definitely speak to some of the heat in our NA competition, being in a few more confined spaces this time around. Maybe I'm just exaggerating in Rescue 1, but going into the bowels of the ship a few times, I'm feeling like 35 was probably a generous number to get in some of those spots. Yeah. Yes, indeed.
So what did you guys do to prepare for this round?
This round was a little bit different for us in that 2 years of the COVID world had definitely come accustomed to video meetings and online gatherings. It wasn't foreign, so we set those up pretty quick, and we tried to run them once a week or every couple of weeks, depending on scheduling, so that we were getting face-to-face communication in. And with the positions changing for us so frequently, there was a lot of stuff that we'd already put in place that had to change, and so on and so forth. So a lot of video meetings to get us going. The online chats, the WhatsApp, the signals, you name it, lots of daily communications there. We were fortunate enough to get 4 different nights of practice together with 4 out of the 5 of us, Tim being in Brampton and not able to fly out for an evening of training and whatnot. So we made the best with what we had. The 4 of us out of 5 with some other staff would come out and do scenarios and training on evenings. And that was pretty much it till we got to the Los Angeles area. We had 2 days of training scheduled there. And that's where we finished up and showed up to the competition. So,
yeah, because I know in the 2019 competition, that was like a couple of days before is the first time some of you guys had ever worked together, right? We met. Since you guys are, yeah, really, wow.
It was like that. That's the way the team was built that time. That was one of the biggest challenges, other than first time competition, was the fact that we were first time and never working together.
Wow.
Yeah, it was certainly a curious experience watching our leadership put that team together. I think when we all sort of saw the names on the list, we kind of all did the, what? What's going on here? Who are these? Like, some people we knew each other, but not well. And then looking at the geography of it all was like, how is this going to work? I remember going through that and wondering how it all came together. And then, as we sort of came together as a team, both online and talking to each other, and then starting to actually get some FaceTime with each other. Same with Pete, like getting handed the captaincy right out the chute and just kind of floored by that. Things didn't make sense off the start, but we weren't the chess players. We were the pieces. And it started to really make sense and gel. And we all came together as a team in really fantastic ways that we didn't see coming. And that first experience was pretty amazing. And this follow-up experience really speaks to, the thought put into constructing the team the way it was. And there were obvious challenges there, But the benefits that we didn't see off the start were very obvious once we came together as a team. So very curious how it all came together, but it totally made sense once we started working together.
And you guys placed well on this competition too, if I recall.
I think we did okay. I think we're all pretty proud. Honestly, I can speak for most of the guys, I think, when I say we just wanted to show up and did a little better than we did last time. And we did a lot better than we did last time. And yeah, there's a lot of small victories in there emotionally and mentally that we might touch on through this. But for sure, there's definitely lots of things in there that we all personally and as a team wanted to achieve this time around that we went a long way past. So it was a pretty amazing experience for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, we set some reasonable goals in the beginning, being our second time around. We really focused on wanting to complete all the scenarios. I'll touch on that in a little bit, but definitely wanted to complete the scenarios. We wanted to come away having learned a bunch of new things like we did last time. And I really stressed that while we're doing that, we needed to have some fun. And we definitely achieved those. And then with the result that we got, and nobody said it yet, so I'll say it, finishing in third place was, it's pretty amazing for all of us. We definitely exceeded expectations, which were, measured. We didn't come there wanting or dreaming. Well, dreaming, yes, but not wanting a podium finish. And getting it was absolutely amazing. It was great for all of us. It was great for all of our family and supporters. So yeah, it's been a couple months and I still haven't shaken the smile off my face. But, it was that big of a deal for me personally, and I'm sure the guys would say the same.
And yeah, you guys should be proud. I mean, there was some stiff competition with all those teams. So you guys definitely earned what you got. That's for sure.
Yeah. And that's what made it so incredibly special, was to see those teams as, banquet unfolded and we got to the portion where teams were getting called up starting in 12th, and we got all the way through and 4th got called up. That's when we realized, wow, like this is like unbelievable. We all had pretty stunned looks on our faces. And seeing the teams that were called up before us, you're right, there was some stiff competition there. And it made it just that much more special, knowing that our efforts scored us a little higher and we got that moment, that recognition.
We ended up looking around the table going, are we counting right? Wait, are we at 5? Wait, are we at 5 or 4? How many teams have been up? Wait, where are we? Oh.
Well, and speaking of competition, I think kind of one of the unique things that ended up happening, because for our listeners, we had 12 teams. They were divided into 2 flights, an A and a B flight, each with 6 teams. And so there was an A and a B team that basically went head to head through all 6 events. And you guys ended up going head to head against the other Canadian team, TNT Work and Rescue. So I think that'll lead to some good stories as we keep going here. So
definitely.
For us, maybe. I don't know about them. Absolutely.
Some more cops.
We did have some fun at your guys' expense when we did their podcast. So got to give you guys equal billing here to be able to get back. So let's kind of start going down through our scenarios here. So let's start with Room with a View.
Sure. Room with a View was one of my personal favorites, with the ascending rope on the side of the ship in front of the public like that. I definitely enjoy that opportunity. My family was able to be there in 2019 and watch. Not so this time, but it's such a neat experience to be able to demonstrate the skill. And when the videos and pictures come out after and friends and people see what you're doing, they're just shaking their head. You're nuts. Look at all the stuff you got hanging off of you. Why would you want to climb a rope? But for me, it's one of the things that I enjoy the most. It's not an easy skill. You definitely need to practice and be ready for it, especially that distance. It's a nice middle distance, if you will. It definitely wasn't a short climb, but by GRIMP standards, not a long climb either. We did have a crack at that one in 2019, and it went pretty smooth for us then. So getting a second chance was fun. There was a few subtle changes this time. They threw in a knot pass for one of them, and our guys were ready for it. I don't think it stumped us in any way. We had a good plan coming out of the gate, and we kept things simple. One of the guys is not a speedster when it comes to climbing. So, and one of the rules was 4 out of the 5 team members had to ascend. So right away, I knew I was leaving the one fellow down. And he was happy about that. We picked our order based on skill and speed. I sent Cole up first because I knew he was going to have to do the knot pass. And he blasted through that and got to our patient. And then my next member to go up was Tim so that we could get going on the rigging. I put myself as the team lead going up third just so that I could get up there and get in control of the situation. And then Jeff, who's not with us on the cast today, he came up fourth. And that's what was kind of interesting this time is by the time Cole got up there, got patient contact and packaging going, Tim got up there and got rigging going and his gear and everything. I got up there and things were kind of moving along pretty smoothly. Now, the rules stated that you had to get 4 members up to the top. And I realized as Jeff was making his final 15 to 20 feet that we didn't need him up there. And so I asked the evaluator, what is the rule? Like, what part of him needs to get up here? And he didn't understand what I meant. I said, well, does he have to touch it, stand on it, perform a skill up here? Like, what are we looking at? And he said, oh, I see. Yeah, I guess as long as his knees are up on this deck level, that would constitute the 4th member arriving. I said, perfect. As Jeff was doing his knot pass and starting to gas out, I yelled, as soon as you get here, you're going to turn around and head down. You could almost hear the tears in his voice. And then from there, Cole and I were able to move our patient. Tim took up slack with our system, which was, again, looking back at pictures and video from the competition, that was one of the things that we picked up last time and we brought forward this time was keep it kind of lean and simple wherever you can. And we were definitely lean and simple on our technique and gear. It moved smoothly, efficiently. It met all the needs and we got our patient out onto the edge and Cole went with him and everybody made it down and we were done about 10 minutes faster than we were the previous competition. So we definitely picked up some tips and skills and put it to work. And so it was our second scenario order run. Again, feeling pretty good at this point in the competition.
Well, that's really impressive. You did it 10 minutes faster and this time there was a knot pass added in.
Yeah, again, that's all on Cole. You know, he nailed it getting up there and dealing with the knot pass. And then the rest of us had an easier time.
Definitely lots of little things picked up from the first time. I can't discount that. As a rescuer, one of the more challenging scenarios to manage a basket and ride a basket was this scenario. Just from going from a vertical plane on the initial descent and then transitioning into what basically ends up into a cross haul. And I think that's the way most of the teams did it, is they put a tagline and they tensioned that tagline to bring it down to the target. Riding a basket in that way, you can't be on top. You just can't. And I don't know if some of the other teams tried that. I know in the last competition, some did, and they kind of flipped over. And I think somebody ended up with the basket almost upside down or something to that effect. So sort of knowing that ahead of time and getting around behind the basket as opposed to trying to be on top of it and setting up in that way was definitely helpful. And then managing that cross haul, Pete started with giving commands, I believe, and then eventually just saw that I was able to sort of manage both sides and then passed it off. And I was able to coordinate with the bottom and the top at the same time, in, out kind of thing. And it went really smooth, felt really great. And we got all the way down to the target and didn't have to do maybe that's where our 10 minutes came in. We didn't have to do retrievable anchors over a handrail to get everybody down to the last bump. So yeah, lots of things learned. And for sure, that's something that, moving forward, whether it's in career or rescue or anywhere or competition, understanding that sort of dynamic when you've got like a tagline like that and a cross haul and then you're a rescuer riding the basket, finding the right place to sort of put yourself might be under the basket as opposed to on top of it or beside it.
Yeah, good takeaway. That was the first evolution that was up in a very public view, if you will. The second one was the stacks. So.
Yeah, this one was big for us. The stacks is where we had an axe to grind from 2019. That's where we started in our competition in 2019 on the Friday afternoon. There's a lot of things that went into that scenario that didn't go our way. In the end, we had the system built and it was over our patient and we ran out of time. So for 3 years, I have had sleepless nights and anxious moments forever wanting to do that one again. And here we are, 2022, getting back into the competition. Wayne comes around and grabs all the TLs. And this was, Friday morning, first scenario. We're all anxious and thinking about a lot of things, mind going in a lot of directions. And Wayne calls TNT and myself over and says, "You're both heading to the stacks." And it was all I could do not to smile and jump up and down, because man, did I want to get that one. And I wanted to get it done and out of the way so we could just move on with our competition. So it was an anxious feeling, but a good feeling to get called back to do that one first for us. Again, we would be silly to not have talked about that one a lot and be prepared for that one. And so we did, and we were. We got a good briefing this time, which was one of the things that was difficult last time. The information, there was a key piece about going off the end of the catwalk that wasn't included in the briefing, which kind of set us snowballing in the wrong direction. That was done perfectly, so that helped. We knew about that narrow catwalk, and that also caused us a lot of problems last time. So we identified a couple solutions to deal with that, stuck to them, and we got Cole going out there first and got fast patient access. We had Jeff right behind him, who was going to be our far side rigging. And then I had Jason and Tim behind me. I stationed myself at the end of the catwalk so that I could have eyes on everything. And we moved through the scenario. There really wasn't any hiccups this time. Progress was always happening, which was awesome. It was almost surreal at some points because everything was going so smoothly. I was trying not to get too anxious or complacent with the situation. And then we got our patient up and down with a rescuer. We started tearing things down, made some good judgment calls in the middle there, getting Tim to get our releasable ropes so that the three of us could get down. He was able to be there when Cole and the patient arrived, giving him a hand. And then Jason and I did a quick clean on the near side, and we were down there. The trickiest part was just getting Jeff back. We used some advantages of the ship, some railings, and got him to hop railings using a safety line rather than actually ascending rope. And when we piled into that finished box, I tell you, that was a huge relief to get that done and get it done right out of the gate. It was a huge boost for the team. We got fortunate. TNT's releasable anchor hung up on them, so we got a few minutes up on them on the first scenario. And I think that's what started the war games back and forth, was like, all right, it's going to be like that. Is it? One of our things that we like to do as a team is we have our cheer, the 49 PRT cheer. And we had our moment with our 49 PRT cheer, and we heard later it was bugging them. Well, I get that, but it wasn't to bug or bother anybody. It was for us. It's just how we compete, how we go. Funnier. Well, then we found out. Yeah. A funny story, though, is being up on the stacks and being public. People thought we were cheering for TNT because from a distance, 49 PRT was sounding like 49 TNT. And that got back to me, and I thought that was kind of funny as well.
We've got to give credit where credit is due, though, for the stacks there. The TNT did help one of our guys when he had the tower lanyard stuck on his back. So they did help unhook that for him.
I forgot to mention that, and I was hoping Jeff would be here for that. But once they got to the far side, one of the rules was they had to locate a Y climbing lanyard to ascend up to the top. And they went into the area, they didn't see them, so they carried on and couldn't find it. And they're frantically looking around because it's holding them up. And the TNT team member found it first and grabbed the other lanyard for Jeff. And then they helped each other by clipping them on to go up. And when they came down, they helped each other to unclip as well, which it's good to see. Wade, their TNT team lead, and I were, 15 feet apart, and we were chatting, and he jokingly said, "Just leave them."
Yeah,
but it was all in good fun.
That spirit of competition and the camaraderie, there's lots of good stories, and I'll tell one later for sure. But that was one takeaway from 2019. But from this one in particular, really see a lot of guys, helping each other out. Yeah, we're competing against each other, but at the end of the day, Nobody's leaving anybody high and dry. And even just little things like this, like the lanyard is a really good example. You see something and see somebody struggling and something basic, and it's just like, it's right over there, dude. Just grab it. Or, very small bits of help from the opposition really speak to the spirit of the event. And like I said, I got a good story about that later, but it's a really good feeling at the end of the day to have everybody helping each other out, and when you're competing against each other at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the whole reason we're there, right? Is to learn from each other and help each other out, right?
Some more with the stacks, like Peter's saying, the stacks is I mentioned earlier, there were some personal triumphs that happened here. The stacks is one of those things that, just like Pete said, that's haunted him and the rest of us for 3 years. One thing he left out is, at our first attempt, we left 2 ropes behind. So we were trying to build an English reeve with 4 ropes instead of 6. So that made things particularly complicated. And I have to own that as a rescuer. And I can't say for sure, but I might be the other rescuer who forgot the other rope. It was me that left a rope behind. We were all jazzed. We were all jacked up, ready to go off and, kick butt and take names. And we gave our chant and we left our depot. And me and the 2 rescuers who are not using ropes left our ropes behind. And then we got there and we're like, okay, this is what we're doing. And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. We have a slight problem here. So we had a few things to overcome there for sure. We didn't make that mistake this time. And needless to say, much like Pete grinding himself over the last 3 years for it, that's something that's been on me for 3 years as well. There are lots of little things that we took away from the stacks. But one thing that I might add there, things that we've talked about and things that we did as a team, like order of march was really important for us. We tried to make everything basic as a team. So we talked about a lot of stuff, but there's a physical situation in the stacks where you can't fit beside each other and you can't actually move around each other and you can't actually do things. So it's really important to establish who you want to go where and in what order. Right. So things like that were really crucial to how we operated through the whole event. And that one in particular was literally a physical representation of why it's so important to figure that stuff out ahead of time. And Pete did a really good job as a leader to establish that that was an important thing. And we need to nail that down and figure out who's going first and where and why and all that kind of stuff. So that's a big takeaway from us from that and the whole event, I would say, that we decided was a really important thing to focus on.
Nothing like having one of the most complicated rope systems to rig and the tiny, tiny little catwalk to do it in, huh?
Yeah, I'm still haunted by Tim asking me to tension the blue rope. Because we only had 4 ropes and 2 of them got doubled and the 2 that got doubled were blue. I had 4 blue ropes in my face and couldn't see around him or the column, so tension the blue rope still haunts me to this day. Yeah, and so that was one of the other takeaways is make sure you got different colored ropes, for goodness sakes.
Sounds like a good plan.
Yeah.
So you went from top of the world there in the stacks to kind of down into the bowels of the ship in the catacombs.
Yeah, the catacombs. That was an interesting one. It wasn't what we were expecting. And I'll clarify. We'd heard or had seen teams arriving back to the staging area very early. And once we'd kind of heard where they were coming from, we knew something might be up. But then when we get there and I get the briefing and I deliver it and we're in motion, the clock's already running. Cole's my first guy to the hatch and he looks and he says, it's straightforward. I can see the patient at the end of a long hallway. And we knew we were at the bottom of the ship because they'd explained that. So we realized that we were in a bit of a different situation here where we didn't have to complicate things. It was quick and easy. We grabbed the patient packaging device. We got our rescuer with the device moving forward and 2 people kind of supporting to help move the device through all the hatches, got to the patient, got a quick package done, and then threw the hatches all the way back. It was very quick. I think somewhere around 14 minutes or something like that. But it felt like a track and field sprint race. In the end, it was just, you're shot out of the blocks. You need to get there, you need to get them, and you need to get back. Because we knew there were some quick times. And at that point, that was day 2 for us. So we had three good scenarios under our belt and we felt like we were going strong and we wanted to keep that momentum going. So yeah, we treated that one like a sprint race in the end.
With that scenario, the one thing that really hurt us, but even though we did well, but the one thing that hurt us is our patient was 6'4" and 200 pounds, and everyone else's patient that they're bringing is 5'2", and so his size 13 feet, we had to just start cramming in through the hole and everything like that, which it was fun for us. But poor Scotty.
Yeah, he had to get twisted laterally to get through his shoulders. We couldn't put him flat. We had to do some lateral twist through all those openings, which just took more effort.
Well, kudos to you guys for picking a big patient, because like you say, a lot of them were, kind of right at the, just at that 60 kilogram or 132 pound mark. So
yeah, he was about 20 to 30 pounds lighter than our other options, so he got nominated.
Yeah.
He's actually getting a reputation as a career patient on the GRIMP circuit, so if you other teams are out there and you want more of a challenge, give him a call.
That's awesome.
Great kid, great haircut too.
Yes. Yeah, there's some GRIMP video of that flow.
There's some club videos in San Francisco of them too, if anybody wants to look those up.
I think we better let that one lie there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we'll move on up to Broadway here. So
Broadway for us was when we started the underground for scenarios. So that was our first one. It was different than the last time we were in that area, which was good. It was more of a challenge this time. Still using a tripod, but the tripod stayed in one place. We didn't have to break it down and move it around as we did last time. We got our plans laid out again early and got fast access with the rescuers down. The challenge, though, was once they got down there, it was a left and a right. It was completely dark, and there's a few decks where your patient could be. And everybody says, well, why didn't your patient just call out? Well, there was rules in place that if your patient called out, you're going to lose points. So patient had to remain very quiet, and these guys had to scour around these 3 decks on either side of the area down there and try and find them. That's where we probably burned some time. I remember at about the 10-minute mark going over and talking to the evaluator that was up top, saying, does it normally take this long to find the patient? And he just shrugged. So I thought, okay, well, I guess it is what it is. But we found the patient, and then I ended up needing a rigger down there as well with the rescuers because there was a lower involved. And that was our plan. We got a rigger down there to assist with the lower and got our patient back and then had our system ready to go and had a rescuer ahead of the patient because of the tube. There was some lighting and things in there, and I just didn't want our patient to get hung up on it. So I had one above and one below in the tube, and then we were able to facilitate patient movement through the opening with that rescuer on lines as well. So it went really smooth for us. I was super happy with it. But I know this is where I want to kick it over to Cole. He's got something interesting to say.
Yeah, for sure. This is that scenario where I had a kind of a really touching experience, kind of indirectly. And what had happened is one of our international teams, they had a controller, the evaluators, of course. And what had happened is I made access down the shaft. I started looking, realized the ground we had to cover was much too much to do on my own, called down our second rescuer, got him in motion. And then after finding the patient on the 3rd floor, like as far as, into the search as you could go, said, okay, we need to do like a multi-pitch lower here down 3 decks. So we'll need to rig up a system. Let's get a rigger down. Timmy came down, and we had a few different ideas, just basic lower with the DCD and a pitch head ASAP or something like that. But all of them involved ropes and rigging, and it was going to take a little bit of time. Timmy, in his infinite wisdom, came up with, you got a Grion on you? Yeah, I got a 5 meter too. So 2 5-meter Grions seemed like an absolutely brilliant idea. And I stick to it. It was a brilliant idea in the right moment. Very minimal rigging, absolutely gets the job done for a short lower, and we got to go down 3 stops. So it was perfect. Packaged the patient. We did just that, got him down all the 3 bits, and then we made our way back out the access and all the way up to the top. And then we finished, and one of the guests, help me out.
Evaluators? Yep.
Evaluators. Thank you. Walked over and grabbed one of the Grions on my hip and said, I want to have a look at this. And he took some pictures of the back of it. And what I didn't know, and I'm not sure if everybody else did, but it was the new version of the Grion is rated as a descent control device. The old version of the Grion is not. So per the manufacturer's instructions, one's good for lowering and one's not. And I didn't know that. But we used one of each. And what had happened is, I guess the guys judging were having a discussion about it. And there was some argument about whether or not that should be allowed or that's okay. And this guy had come over and he had a look at it and he's like, don't worry, I'll get this back for you. And he went over there and basically argued on our behalf. And it went to the extent where he came and took them off of my harness and brought them over and said, look at these things. This is something we do. There's nothing wrong with this. One is good for DCD and one is not. Doesn't matter. So really at the end of the day, one is a DCD and one is a backup. That should fly. No problems. And he argued hard for us. He argued for us to keep those points. He argued in the spirit of the competition way beyond what was necessary. And that really, like I said, he could have just said, no, that's fine, not a big deal, and left it at that. But he went to bat for us hard. He didn't back down from that fight. And I don't know what the scorecard looks like, but that probably landed in our favor. And that left a really big impression on me, because this is a competitor, somebody that we're fighting against for points, and he didn't have to fight that hard for us, and he did. So that was a really, really, touching thing that happened in the competition. And I hope it happened in more places than just with us, and probably did. But that's something that I don't want to escape the experience at all, because that was really meaningful and important. And I, later on at the awards and stuff, I made sure we had a good conversation with him and told him how much that meant to me and the team, and how, with the level of integrity there, second to none and much appreciated. And he just said it was the right thing to do. That's all there is to it. So yeah, that was a really touching and meaningful moment that happened in the competition that I really want not to escape the experience and everybody to know about.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome story, and it really speaks to like I said, the core and some of the core values of GRIMP, and that's, to work together, and competition takes a second place to doing the right thing and learning.
Yeah.
Very nice. So after Broadway, then what we have on the list, I'm not sure what order you guys did this in, Shaft Alley. What do you guys think of that?
Shaft Alley is where we finished the competition. And again, another interesting scenario, below decks. Nice big opening, some rigging provided for you to get started. We got our briefing done, got our rescuers down the hole and frantically searching. And again, this was another left and right and where is the patient? And it took a bit of time. One thing that we knew based on the briefing was that there was 2 lines for ascending. So they were looking for those lines. Once they found those and got a rescuer up, they found our patient on a very tight ledge. And that's where packaging had to occur. It was hot, tight, difficult space. And again, last one of the competition for us. So it was definitely starting to become a fatigue issue. Got 2 rescuers down there with a rigger to do the lower, knowing that there was ascending lines and that you couldn't use the ascending lines. So 2 of us stayed up top and built our raising system. And while we were waiting, we initially attached to the rigging that was provided, and then remembering how tall our patient is and eyeballing things, we started moving the rigging up the staircase. And then we moved it twice. We moved it right to the top of the staircase just so that we didn't have any issues, but we had the time. So it was kind of something fun for us while the guys were unfortunately working incredibly hard down below, getting updates and of the struggles, and I could hear the heavy breathing. They got the patient back to beneath the opening, and then it again using a team member above and below to negotiate the tight openings and our patient in the dragon lift. Got the patient out, got everybody on their way out. I remember, again, like I've said, this was the last scenario, and Cole, being our number 1 rescuer, had been on point for 2 days, doing everything first, and the most physical labor was always on him, and he was grunting to get up the lines. Like I could just hear it every stroke to climb. He's dying. So for fun, I started yelling at him. And there were spectators there. Some of the language I used, I'm not going to say in the podcast, but everybody that was there enjoyed the show, including Cole, because even though he was ready to drop dead, I got a chuckle out of him, so I knew it was working. But yeah, we made it back to our finish line and had our final cheer of the competition, and it was a pretty unreal moment right there, being done, getting all the scenarios finished for us, which was, one of our priorities and our goals as a team to not get denied this time, and we made it. So definitely felt really proud in that moment with the guys. I shared a few words down there, just my thoughts and thank yous, and wanted to let them know, how much it meant to me, and hoped, it meant a lot to them too.
Oh, that's great. No.
Yeah. With that one, that was when Cole went down first. He went searching. I was the second one in. I went left. He went straight. And then it was funny because when I turned the corner, I saw a bunch of evaluators. I'm like, I think it's this way. All the evaluators are there. So we quickly went around the corner. He started ascending and looking for a spot to rig there to lower the patient down. There was barely anything. It was great that we got the black mambas like during the pre-course there when they're having nice lunch and everything. I'm like, oh, it worked out absolutely great to have the black mambas. So we rigged them up there, and it was a beautiful lower, and I got the other rescuer to help me, and just the ground it wasn't well kept as it probably was before. So part of the ground is giving out on you when you're walking and carrying the patient. And I was like, oh, this is lovely. And going up the final one, I was like, I didn't need to ascend because I could easily climb it with an ASAP. So I was always tied off. So it helped out a little bit because it was only, I'm 6'4", so it helped out easy for me to jump up. But that was Cole really worked his bag off on that one, because when I made it around that corner, I could feel the heat, and he was up 2 more stories, and that heat was just probably unbearable.
Yeah, that was definitely a trial of will, that last one for sure. Pete mentioned the very last one on the very last day, and exactly to Timmy's point, it was very hot, three up in that hole that had no real airflow or anything like that. We kept doing you push on your helmet and just watch 2 liters pour out of your face onto the patient. Yeah. Scotty and I got very close over that competition, but we mentioned earlier in Spain, the guys. So we had a few guys succumb to a heat injury. That was my destiny at the end of this one. I had to lay down once we got into the finish box, and Pete's like, "Just stay there. Just you're fine. Just stay there." But that was super challenging. A really good, definitely really good scenario. Packaging on that ledge was challenging for sure. Really hard to move. Very good scenario, well designed, I'd have to say. And Timmy's rigging made it all that much easier for sure. As the package came down, he kind of had like a bit of a cross haul thing going on, and they kind of just redirected the patient right kind of out the door. He left a lot of garbage behind for me to clean, but he did a good job.
I had the patient right away.
Fair enough. Those black mambas were awesome, except they were hard to get off of those hinges. Yeah, it was a really, really great finish, and definitely that's all I had left for sure.
And if I recall you guys saying, Mike, you were the evaluator, and that was the station that you were at for the A flight then, huh? So you got a chance to see 6 teams solve that problem.
I did, yeah. It was incredible seeing all 6 teams affect that scenario differently. All with similarities, but whether it was a drop loop 4-1, whatever on the tail end of it, but everyone attacked it differently, and it was amazing seeing the speeds and the focus of the teams that came through. Was absolutely incredible. Everyone was really driven, and it taught me a lot. In my rescue career, you see intricacies that you don't get to see being involved in the evolution, right? What to bring, what not to bring, what you truly need, what you don't need. So from my perspective, I took that as one of the most absolutely amazing learning opportunities in my rescue career for sure.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head too, because that's I've been an evaluator in both the GRIMP NAs, and that's what I love the most, is just watching how the different teams, solve the problem. And some are positive learning experiences and some are not, but you learn from all of them nonetheless.
Oh, exactly. And also seeing what their problem solving, I guess how they're problem solving through situations. It was great. You'd see people fully pause for a second, think about the situation they're in. And it was almost like they're running through different scenarios in their mind of how to accomplish the goal at that point. And then you'd see the aha moment and then go straight to it. It was impressive. And seeing some of the, the bigger, taller guys that are generally not, hull of a ship material kind of thing, like powering through. It was impressive seeing some of those big guys come through and, seeing how hard they were working, man. Yeah, I was a bit jealous and a bit thankful I was on the evaluator side of things.
What, jealous because they're tall? Not like you?
No. Wait.
I can say that. I'm a short guy.
I was just going to say, Cole, how tall are you? Is that the pot calling the kettle black there?
I'm 5'8" when I'm on my tip of toes.
No, definitely seeing everyone working their butts off and rigging and problem solving made me wish I was involved in the competition. But it's 6 of one, half dozen the other. I loved the learning from being an evaluator, and I love the camaraderie, and I love being a part of the team. The guys were all absolutely amazing, and and thinking about my future in rescue and thinking about how I would attack different scenarios and different things. I definitely learned a lot from watching all the guys go through the evolution.
Great. So hey, we'll head on out to our last scenario here, very appropriately named. You're not going to like this. So
I love that one.
And so far.
Once we got into it and finished and got back out, I felt that whoever named it was spot on. It wasn't awesome. It was pretty dirty, pretty dusty, some interesting challenges, like right out of the gate, just getting into the hole. You've got that elevated, like 4-foot high hatch that you're crawling through just to get going, and then through a couple of baffles, and then you got to go down tubes that are almost offset, but not quite. Are you going to make it or you're not going to make it kind of challenges. So we'd kind of seen part of it before. In 2019, it was slightly different, and we were in a different spot on the ship. So that definitely changed things. Again, it fit into our plan of, okay, we're getting a rescuer down on fast access lines. We're going to do a raise. We knew our system type for raises. Was it going to work? Once the rescue was down, confirmed it was going to work. So boom, everything went into play. High point was set. Everybody was busy the whole time trying to get to the patient, get them packaged, get them back, get them out. It went smooth for us. I mean, again, our patient doesn't fit through these hatches when you lay him flat or supine. So we're trying to position him slightly lateral to get him through these openings, and we couldn't even get full hands on. I got caught in the middle in between a pipe, him and the wall. I'm trying to drag myself out. Of course, everything on me is hooking onto everything around me. And once I got myself out of there, we were able to get him through that last opening and stage him to get him to do the lift up and out. We got that done, and most of us were ready to be done that scenario at that point. Like, it's more work than you realize when you're lifting a human that way. But again, yeah, it was dank and dirty in there. It wasn't the most fun I've had, but it was still a good time in a twisted sort of way.
Yeah, ironically, that is a lot of people's favorite scenario because of the challenges in it.
That one I felt was pretty good. We had cold going all the way to the bottom, and we did a big drop loop to him, and I believe we only hauled the patient up, and so Cole's busting his ass going right behind him, and we're doing a 6-to-1 resetting the whole time as we go. The piece of equipment we've never used before, so it was the EOLF I-beam little clamps, and they worked out absolutely great. And as we're hauling, one guy was hauling and one guy was resetting, and I found it was very smooth coming up. And then when he got halfway to the hole, it was like, oh, we ran out of room. And that was when we had to use a little bit more muscle with the length of our patient.
Timmy got physical.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that the EOLF I-beam clamp, because I know there was one team in the A flight that had one, and then you guys had one. And when I talked to Jason actually on Saturday, night on the ship before the banquet, and we got talking about that device, and very, very impressive device. Kind of nice lightweight way to have a beam clamp.
Nice and light. That was the big thing.
I definitely like the scenario. I have to say, I think this time around it felt a little more simple than 2019's version of it. I'm not exactly sure how or why, but it seemed a little more basic. Went off pretty good for us, and we came out, strong and finished well, I thought. And, the biggest question on my mind at the end of it was, after finding out TNT had beat us by like 15 minutes, was how did they cheat? I don't get it. Clearly they cheated, because how can you do that 15 minutes faster? Yeah. So had to have some conversation with them about it. Apparently they did the same things we did, just better. But, yeah.
Well, like I said, the ship, and we actually talked about this on TNT's podcast too. Yeah, the ship's crew did a good job of messing with you guys. Yeah, they had literally just left, and so I was actually standing out in the hallway when you guys came out and did your cheer. I look over, and then you guys were instantly looking to the finish area for the other, over where the A flight was. And then when the ship's crew said, oh yeah, they were out here 15, 20 minutes ago, the look on all of your faces just dropped. It was like, you got to be kidding us.
Yeah, I didn't believe him at first. I honestly thought the ship's crew was just having some fun at our expense, because, having done that scenario 3 years prior, and it wasn't easy. And then being in a different area, thought it went really smooth, like right around an hour kind of a time mark for us, and super pumped and thinking, oh yeah, looking and don't see him and think, oh yeah, we beat him. We got out ahead of him. It was, there's a Canadian rivalry there for sure. We were having fun with it, and so were they. And then, no, he was dead serious. They had left, and yeah, you're right. It shocked us. We're thinking we were moving along at a good pace, and they'd already cleaned up and left.
Yeah.
Huh.
In the 2019 scenario, they unplugged the fan and to mess with you. This time, Jason Heinsohn, he used basically a whole roll of electrical tape on that plug to make sure no one unplugged that fan.
Actually, Doug, you were our evaluator that time, and you came along and unplugged the fan right in front of me, and I thought, what's going on? And he just kind of smiled and walked away, and that's when I knew I just needed to plug it back in. So knowing that trick from last time, Jason thought it would be funny, so he put electrical tape all over that plug on the outside. But the joke was on us, because the evaluator inside the space had an extension cord in there and unplugged the fan from there.
Yeah, we learned some tricks too, right? So
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that's kind of cool, because I remember you guys did a really good job in 2019 on that scenario too, when you were in my flight. And
it was down to the wire for us though.
Oh yeah,
we finished within the last minute. That was a rush in itself, knowing we were that close.
But there's some teams that didn't finish, and there's multiple teams that finished with less than a minute to spare. So, especially in 2019. So. But you guys did very good this time, from what I heard. Yeah,
it was important that we learned from the previous competition. I mean, that's the whole point of it. And we came back better rescuers with, I guess, a few tricks up your sleeve, or just experience more than anything. But we learned and used that knowledge, and it showed for 6 straight scenarios. So it was awesome.
Yeah. And there was a couple new in it, and obviously the scenarios that got repeated from last time, we tried to put some twists in it. Really, the only one that we didn't have to change anything up on was the one in the wing void. That was cruel and unusual enough. It didn't really need to be changed.
Yeah. And the stacks, from what I recall, it was very similar, but it was tough enough. The challenge to get that high line built in those areas of the ship, it did present a lot of challenges. Just being right there. Didn't need to change much.
Yeah, so kind of speaking of that, so why do you think some of the scenarios were more challenging for some teams and less challenging for others, more straightforward?
Yeah, I'm just going to refer to a note that I wrote on that subject. I think there was lots of reasons why. Hearing stories afterwards, simple communication errors between team members at critical times, slow them down, cause problems. Missing key information was another one that I heard about after. during the briefing and then relaying it to team members. Could have been language barriers, could have been just haste, hard to say, but it definitely sends you down the wrong path and causes problems that you might not overcome. I've already said this, but I'll say it again. We learned a lot from that 2019 competition about competing itself. You come to this competition with rescue on your mind and focus on your technique and your equipment and everything else, but there's a certain element of competition that you also need to be aware of. And that's the judges are standing there watching and listening to everything you're doing. And you need to paint the picture for them. So your team communication doesn't just need to be between the two of you or three or four or five of you, but it needs to be so that the judges are hearing what you're saying and following along and making sure that, things that you say that you're doing are actually getting done and recognized. And then you add in a clock and some difficult challenges, and, pressure can turn people in multiple directions, and sometimes for good and sometimes not. I think that's a few examples of what could have possibly caused teams to not be successful. And, I'm sure there's plenty more. But
So what was your guys' best takeaway from the event?
For me, again, circling back to what we learned as a team in 2019, we definitely adapted a lot of things this time. Last time, it was sometimes the techniques that were being used were a latest and greatest. And that's, we wanted to be on the cutting edge and trying to do those things. But moving forward, realizing that it doesn't always have to be the latest and greatest to get the job done. So we, as a team, built plans that were simpler this time. So, gear, simpler. Don't have to have the kitchen sink with you. You just got to have things that are going to work in the most situations. And if you can justify carrying it, or that term that I've heard, the real estate on your belt, if it's worth it, then bring it. Otherwise, let's leave it at home. And in the end, we planned to use less gear, simpler techniques, and keep it on the simple, basically.
No.
Yeah. And at the end of 6 scenarios, I'd say it worked. It was a big change for us. So the biggest takeaway was that it worked.
For sure, if I'm ever teaching any classes on rescue or anything like that, that's definitely that statement that I always throw out to the class right off the hop is like, as much as it crushes my ego, the right move at the end of the day is almost the most basic one you can accomplish, because more people can follow it. It's got the greatest chance of success, and it's way more likely to happen in a timely fashion and get the job done. Everybody wants, everybody wants to do the inverted Tom Cruise English Reeve pickoff, but it's so complicated and there's so much there that it's just, at the end of the day, the likelihood of success in a timely fashion is very low. So, if we can, I hate to say it, if we can accomplish the same thing with a Zoom boom that's sitting right there, that's what you do. And again, that crushes the rope geek in me. But the reality is the simple, basic option is the right move. And we applied that to this scenario, and it worked so well. It worked so well for us. So
why do a pike and pivot?
Pete hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, you don't need to do a pike and pivot if two guys can just grab and lift a little bit. It's perfect. It works. Mm-hmm. It saves so much time.
Exactly. Yep.
Did you learn anything at the event that you're going to be able to use on the job?
Yeah, for me, absolutely, I did. I learned a lot of things that I've used on the job, specifically gear, seeing the different types, the different techniques for certain pieces. An Aztec, for example, the department that I work for, we're still getting into the rope side of things. I mean, we have some stuff, but it's we've got a big learning curve yet. So bringing this stuff back and introducing it and showing the uses has been really beneficial. And an Aztec was one of the pieces of kit. A couple of the guys on our team love them, and not everybody does. Somebody would take a Grion, like a 5-meter Grion, over an Aztec, and that's personal choice. I'm okay with that as long as you can justify to me that you're able to get the job done. You pick. And I never forced anything like that on anybody. But bringing that back to work and being the team captain for a second time and running the group and having, a different level of success. We had success last time. This time it was just a different level. But there's a lot of things that I learned about managing people and communication skills, and just tempering my own expectations. And I know I'll be able to bring that back to work. And that was actually some of the comments that I got from two different evaluators at the banquet, sharing a drink and having those chats. And the one guy asked me, "So how long have you been a captain?" And I said, "Oh, I'm not a captain." And he said, "Well, how long have you been a lieutenant?" I said, "I'm not a lieutenant." And he said, "Well, then what are you?" I said, I'm a middle of the road firefighter. Like I'm not a senior firefighter, and I'm not the junior guy. I'm right in the middle." And he was blown away. And then the comments that followed blew me away. He said that out of the 6 scenarios he watched, he took the most away from watching me. And, when you're living your own world, you don't realize what impact you may have sometimes. And it was pretty special to hear that. You don't always get that kind of feedback. You don't really know where you stand in the world of leadership. So it was pretty validating. And, we had a couple good long chats. So that's what I'm taking away from this, are the gear and leadership.
That's huge. Yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah, for me, every time we go to one of these comps, you get to meet the manufacturers, you get to meet the people that design the things or the equipment. And it's great to get feedback and give feedback back to them. Tell them what you like and what you don't like. And they're able to show you the new greatest piece of equipment. Like 5 years ago when I went down to Namur, I got to take a look at the clutch before it was out. It was still in the development phase. And then Chow, I got to use it as a prototype during the competition. And when we went back to my department, we were still on 12 millimeter rope and bar racks. And it was like, okay, it's time to make the switch. And now Brampton Fire is now running with 11 mil rope. We have 12 clutches. We have ASAPs, and we've completely done a 180. And that's all because the department was open to change, and going to these competitions have really helped as well.
Oh man, that's So what are so just for our listeners, when we do these podcasts, we're actually on Zoom, and Mike just brought a stack of clutches and popped in front of the camera here. So that's awesome.
What he's not telling you is he's actually really good friends with our direct competition, TNT, and he probably pulled some favors to get that stuff there.
We've been fortunate at our fire department that one of our captains he's been involved in the higher end, I guess the more physics side of rope rescue for a long time. So he's been teaching us progressive techniques for a while. So budget and all that in mind, we've been running 11 mil for a long time, but we've been running MPDs with him, which is not the same. The clutch obviously changes the game a lot, but we've been very fortunate to run them for a while. And they've been actually sitting here for a couple months now. We're just waiting. Our tech team kind of got put on hold with some white helmet changes recently. So we're getting that ramped up and running again here soon. So these babies will be on the trucks here pretty quick.
Oh, that's great.
And can't I be friends with everyone on every team? No. Or
Huh. You're ours.
Go on.
So would you guys recommend in participating in an event like GRIMP to other teams?
Absolutely, without hesitation. Having done it only twice and at the same event, I would still not hesitate to talk somebody's ear off if they were even remotely interested. I would be the Jeff in the situation of myself from that story earlier. I'd be pushing from now on. Because after competing, I've noticeably improved skills, leadership. The opportunities that were presented there and lessons learned were enormous. You can't replace that kind of compressed learning curve, because when you get on a team, let's say you've got 6 months, that we'll call that an average. If it's a year, great. But if you've got 6 months, you've got 6 months to kind of get yourself competition ready. And if it's a first time, it's a steep learning curve. Like I said, you've got to figure out your own style of rescue and equipment and team communication, but you got to get it to a point where it's fast and smooth operations of everything. And as I learned, there is an enormous world of gear out there the first time. So choosing and figuring out which direction to go. But anyway, that was more my journey. I believe that accelerated learning, though, is what made it so valuable. Is you come out of that 6 months with skills, knowledge, and ability that could conceivably take you years if you're just doing it at a normal pace. So for somebody that's looking at getting better and getting better quickly, take the opportunity if it's there, and you'll be rewarded. Like whatever you put in, you'll get out, guaranteed. And that's about all I could really say on that.
From my perspective, not knowing anyone on the team, getting asked to kind of fill in last minute, I was going down to, support friends and hang out and be a heckler kind of thing. Seeing the camaraderie and seeing how, the competition's the competition, but as soon as the competition's over, how everyone spoke to each other, everyone was so supportive and positive. The environment was just so fun and it was electric. Like when we were all together going out, going for dinner or seeing other teams on the street walking by, the high fives and the cheering and everything, like it made the event, more than just a competition to me. And I've been involved in other competitions throughout my life and careers and other things. But this one was different. Everyone was like-minded. Everyone wanted to just go have fun. Everyone would help anyone else when they wanted or needed help. It was like a beautiful experience for me. And I can't wait to go back and do it again in whatever capacity I go back in many years to come.
Oh, that's great. So Cole, you had something?
Timmy, you in there? Yeah, I think, this one kind of reaches back to the first question for me as well. What got you interested in GRIMP in the first place? I guess probably by experience and maybe by age. I'm the most junior guy on the team. And for sure for me, I got involved with Ronin, and as soon as I got involved, I was tech level rescue everything, and I had no idea what I was getting into. And I thought, by NFPA standards, I kind of knew some stuff. And then I got involved with Ronin, and my mind was blown completely out of the water, and I had no idea what I didn't know. And then I'm looking at all these guys with their years of experience in so many different disciplines, and how they've put them all together. It's not just like NFPA, fireman rescue, it's rope access, it's mountain rescue, it's military and mountain rescue, right? It's every discipline all kind of formed into one. It's the Bruce Lee version of martial arts, right? We're taking all the best bits of everything and putting them all in the crucible and coming out with the best everything. And all the teams are doing the same thing. So you've got this international presence of teams all over the world doing that same thing from wherever they're from and bringing it all together in competition. It's just, you can't get that anywhere else. You really can't. And much to what everybody else said about the camaraderie and how special it is. And, those moments like what I spoke about earlier about, having a competitive teammate stepping up and doing the right thing and saying, this is totally sound and we should not dock them points for that. That kind of stuff is priceless. And the stuff we're learning from all these people, it's such an experience that cannot be duplicated in any other way in any other place. And again, for me, they originally, when I got to Ronin as the younger guy, looking at all these people and then seeing them do this, that was before NA was a thing. And that was we're 2015-ish. So GRIMP was still not quite as global as it is now. And I was pulling on shirt colors. How do I get on a team? How do I do this? I want to do this. This is like the Navy SEAL stuff. I want to be one of you guys. You guys are awesome. And then NA came up and it just, that opportunity fell into my lap and I couldn't be more grateful. And for sure, like I said, there's no other experience out there that I'm aware of that will bring this kind of talent, different skill sets all together in a way that GRIMP does. So yeah, it's invaluable what you can get out of it.
Oh, that's great. Thanks. Very well said.
This is the closest you can get to an actual rescue. You got the time pressure on you. You're in a team of 5, and this is as close as you're going to get. You have a live patient, so it's not a dummy. You have to treat them with care as best as you can. Even in GRIMP NA, they have different scenarios where you are doing actual patient care, where you are triaging the patient and everything like that. This is as close as you can get to the real deal. So I feel for teams, this is, when you actually go out on a call, you're not a deer in headlights. You're getting that experience. And even if you just do mini competitions throughout your own department, it's going to help quite a bit. It's giving the guys that, okay, you need to move fast. You need to see what's going on. If you're an individual and you're trying to join the team, the one thing I got to warn you, though, all of a sudden you're going to spend a lot of money because I have 5 DCDs now. You just keep throwing money at it because it gets addicting. You have fun with it, and it's an expensive hobby, but you love it.
That's awesome. So is anything else you guys want to comment on?
Something that I took away, I work with another team. We do a lot of training with Ronin. They come in, bring in their experts in to do some pretty high-end training with us, which is absolutely amazing. And we share a facility with a big fire department. It's in Alberta, rhymes with Smalberry. I can't really say their name, but we had a conversation, and seeing a competition like this, it proves and solidifies the fact that you do not need, 20 guys. You do not need 20 bags of gear, and you don't need 10 hours to affect a rescue. These are they're very complex evolutions. And, a quote from someone at the big city department, they mentioned that, you can't affect a high-end, high-angle rope rescue with less than 16 guys. And this was within the last couple years kind of thing. So, again, at our department here in Canmore, our captain was pretty forward-thinking. So we've been training small teams, but seeing these guys, 5 people, including a team lead, rocking these evolutions in, an hour kind of thing with limited gear, ultimately limited resources. It's kind of a true testament of where rescue is going. And it's a true testament as to what these guys can do and how they can get it done. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
And it's kind of interesting, the comparison between a 16-person team and what a 5-person team can do, huh?
Yeah, exactly, Tim. Yeah, that's what I was going to hit on too. That smaller team probably knows each other a little better and is easier to follow the plan when you got less bodies all over the place, and the good idea fairy doesn't show up quite as much.
Well, it seems too that there's a lot more peer pressure to perform if you're on a 5-person team. A little easier to hide if you're in a larger team. So anything else you guys want to comment on? Or
there's one story I'd like to share. We had a moment after the competition. I was just trying to find the video for audio while I'm talking. TNT was doing the room with a view scenario right beside us, and we, did fairly well, and we're wrapping up and doing our, as I mentioned earlier, we like to do that team cheer. And unfortunately for them, there was a sponsor that was taking a video as they were coming down. So the last guy rappelling down, and very clearly in the video is the audio of our team cheer. And if I can get it, I'll play it, and hopefully it works for it. But just need a second to find it. Here it is. All right. Let's see if this plays.
Yeah.
So in the video, like I said, their last members is rappelling down, and their sponsors getting the action shot, but all you can hear is us clowns on the other side of the ship. So finding out about that after was kind of enjoyable, especially with that rivalry back and forth of, getting down ahead of them on a couple, and then they were whooping us on a few down below the decks. That you told that story, how it kind of shook us up a little bit, but yeah. I thought that was...
Pete, isn't that how you get new sponsors?
Yeah.
Skylar. Yeah.
Yeah. No, honestly, from us, the 49th team, there's so many thank yous, the large group that you guys are for getting this competition together and running it again. Being a second timer and seeing the first and then the second versions of the competition, we noticed some huge differences on organization, planning. Things flowed so much better for us. Like once we arrived, we were greeted, given bags, given great directions, great instructions on the equipment from your staff that was available to provide insight on all of that. Scenarios ran pretty close to on time, and everything was great. Lots of help. We had a fantastic time at the event this time. Obviously, the banquet was the highlight of all highlights for us. Getting called up in third place, and we've shared a little bit about that already, but just want to be clear how much it means to all of us, and how amazing of a feeling and experience it was to be called up in third place with all the other teams that were there, and how difficult they all made it for us to finish there. And what I mean is
Yep.
You know, everybody was laying it on the line, and for us, third place, wow, it's very humbling. But I know we're going to enjoy that for a while. Thank you to Ronin for getting us the gear and all the support, personal gear, team gear, all of that. Arc'teryx for some clothing and help. Strep for some awesome Edge Pro, a Kong helmets that we reused again. Just want to make sure that if it's okay to get that opportunity to thank them all out there with your podcast, if that's okay, then we'd like to do that. But and to all the other competitors, it was absolutely fantastic to meet all the teams and see them go through everything and see the changes for several of the teams that getting that first competition under their belt and making it to the end and seeing the blood, sweat, and tears in between. It's really cool. I remember it well after going through it the first time and going through it a second time. And I don't know when I'll compete again. I know I will, but for now, it's just a wait and see. Again, it was great to meet all of them and share some stories and experiences. And yeah, it was a fun time from start to finish. And in a way, I'm sad it's over, and I'm so glad we got this opportunity to talk about it on a podcast, because like I say, it's been a couple of months and my wife and kids don't want to hear about it anymore. Friends and family, they've heard all the stories. So to get another go around to talk about this in depth is kind of special, because it still hasn't left me. It still puts a smile on my face when I get up and think about what we got to do and the results that we got out of it. Yeah.
Well, I think it's nice too, you guys sharing your experiences. You're hopefully, a good motivation for our listeners, and they can learn a lot from you guys and from what from what you learned, and also from your examples. So this is awesome.
Yeah, I hope so. And that's really the after effect of the competition is now you can share with anybody and everybody that wants to know and make them better or make them a little more savvy at their job, help them out with some tricks that you've learned along the way. And because we've learned them, now we get that opportunity to share them. It is amazing and it's helpful. And we've been able to make differences in our communities already. As Tim shared, his department's gear has gone light years ahead and in a short time. And he's the driving force behind it. And it's because of the competitions that he's been to and the work that he's put in that's helped. And I've been able to help my department recently with some training on some of the newer equipment. So it's awesome. It's validating. It makes it all worthwhile to see the light bulb come on in your coworkers' faces and to be the one to share it with them. I love it. It's why I do this.
You could just hear it in your voice. It says it all.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
No, nothing really else to share.
Okay.
It was great.
Good.
It's a great competition. We're just happy to be there. It's yeah, like I said, if anyone has the opportunity to go, even just to watch it, you will learn a lot. And talking to manufacturers, you'll learn a lot just by talking to them, and they learn a lot by talking back to us. And you can tell them what you like and what you don't like. It's back and forth conversation. It's really good.
Yeah, Tim's totally right. That does remind me of another story. Another shameless plug for Michael at Strep Edge Protection there. He's working incredibly hard to create products that work better for us. And he's the first one to admit, I don't do this stuff. You guys do this stuff. So I need the feedback to make my product better. But good on him. I mean, he's been to as many competitions as he can get to, and he's listening. He's making the changes. His product is better already, and it's only going to get better. And that's just one example. I know other companies do it, but I can share that experience because Michael and I spoke, and I enjoyed our conversations, and I enjoyed his enthusiasm, and he intently listens, which is nice. As a worker or rescuer on the front line, to have somebody that's so interested to hear what you have to say, and if it's going to make their product better, they'll implement it.
I got a quick story for you guys, since you guys, Ronin, are legendary taggers with stickers here. So
no, that's not us.
No,
Yeah.
So
Just rumors.
yeah, so Michael was in our booth at FDIC this year. So he's standard. He has their new Edge Pro pack on, and so while he was basically distracted talking to other people, we managed to take off one of the strep patches, the Velcro patches, and put a CMC patch on and to get a sticker on the back of his pack while he was standing there. So it was awesome. Because he had tagged a ton of our stuff at the litters and everything else at GRIMP. So it was nice to get them back. So
Yeah, for sure. I don't know, Doug, if you followed our 49th Parallel Instagram at all, but I made the trek down in the truck with the two other Ronin employees to get the gear there. And Mark and Ken are legendary at the tagging, and it's definitely spread. When we drove 3 years ago, we decided to tag Walmart, but not with stickers. We just got pictures in all the parking lots and all the trucks on the way there, and just marking our location on the way. But before we left, there was a huge fire at their warehouse, and I didn't want to tag a Walmart on this trip, so we decided to go with anything and everything. It was gas stations, In-N-Out Burger, restaurants, you name it. The two young fellows that were with me, they were right into it. So I noticed TNT's patient, Wade's girlfriend, I believe she had a Ronin sticker on her back shoulder before the end of the evening as well.
That just sounds like it's going to continue the rivalry between you guys. I'm sure you guys will be finding some TNT stickers, huh?
Oh yeah, guaranteed.
So, hey, well, thanks, guys, for joining us on this podcast. And we normally try to keep these things around, 45 minutes to an hour. But I think you guys had so many great experiences, great stories to tell. I'm actually glad this went longer. So hopefully our listeners hung in there till the end here, because I think it was definitely worthwhile with what you guys had to add. Okay, well, thanks again for tuning in to another CMC podcast, and stay tuned for more